He is my king, he is my one. Yes, he's my father, yes, he's my son. I can talk to him, cause he understands everything I go through and everything I am. He's my support system, I can't live without him. The best thing since sliced bread is his kiss, his hugs, his lips, his touch. And I just want the whole world to know about my black brother. I love you and I'll never try to hurt you. I want you to know that I'm here for you forever true. Cause you're my black brother, strong brother, and there is no one above you. I want you to know that I'm here for you forever true.
Parisian and Octavius roll like tides. College days, Clark, Atlanta, where it all collides. Fred stepped in, the trio came alive. 3 voices, 1 mic, now the stories thrive. Late nights, deep talks, the bonds grew tight. From dorm room dreams to the podcast light. Brotherhood on air, we laugh, we share. Spinning life stories, no truth left spare. Brotherhood on air, pull up a chair, 3 minds, 1 heart.
Welcome to another episode of The Brothers Show. Before we get started, please remember that everything we talk about here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. The brothers and our guests may or may not be licensed therapists, medical professionals, lawyers, or financial advisors, and nothing said on this show should be taken as professional advice. All opinions expressed by the host and guests are our personal views. We also react to videos, articles, and other media under the Fair Use Act for commentary, criticism, and discussion. We do not claim to own any third-party content shown. Viewer discretion is advised, and we encourage you to do your own research and consult qualified professionals for advice specific to your life or situation. This channel complies with applicable.
How y'all brothers doing?
I'm good.
Doing well.
I'm good.
Stay warm.
Trying to stay warm?
Trying to stay warm.
Fred, let me see what you did with your hair, bro.
Nothing, y'all. I do nothing to my hair, but
hey, he put some juices and berries in that thing.
Yeah, that stay soft fro.
I just need a haircut.
Look at me leaning down like I can see the top of it if I lean down.
I just need a haircut, man. That's all that.
Hey, man, it look like this man done locked up, bro. You wouldn't got an S curl.
Me and Daddy's in charge of this one.
What they rock in Cali? They rock Wave Nouveau, didn't it?
Wave Nouveau. I think I black. What's that?
Know about that, bro?
Black hair with the red writing. Is that Wave Nouveau?
Yeah.
That was one.
That was a long time ago for some of us.
I know.
So we got a rousing discussion that we're gonna have tonight. I understand.
Yes, sir.
Right, Dr. Lamar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's it about?
We're going to talk about education reform. We're going to bring out one of our experts in the field. We're going to bring him out now. I'm going to go ahead and do his intro if we all ready.
Yeah,
ready?
we can do it. We can bring him out before Hot Topics.
Yeah,
Why not?
All right, so let's go ahead and start.
I noticed that all y'all got on suits, so he must be important. Y'all dressed up for the brother.
Fit the cause.
Yeah, y'all dressed up for the brother. He's got to be important.
Trust me, mine.
We know why. We know why. I'm gonna go ahead and give his bio, you all.
Okay.
So Dr. R. Dixon, he's an assistant professor of developmental psychology at the Howard University. Dr. Dixon research explores issues of belonging, identity, and culture across the lifespan. As a leader of the Belonging, Learning, and Identity Cultural Lab, he collects data with colleagues from partner universities to examine the relationship between culture, gender, and racial identities. Dixon's passion is to do research that enhances the lived experience of Black people across the lifespan. Dr. Dixon's research and passion has primarily within the educational arena. Howard Dixon is poised and nimble to engage in work that speaks to the current social political context. Previously, before being at Howard University, Dr. Dixon was assistant professor of developmental psychology at Hampton University. Before that, he served as a senior associate for P12 research at the Educational Trust. The Educational Trust is a nonprofit education civil rights organization. While at the trust, Dr. Dixon conducted research to inform discussions and debates amongst educational decision makers at the national, state, and local levels. Dr. Dixon holds a bachelor's in psychology from North Carolina Central. He holds a master's and a doctorate degree in developmental psychology from Howard University. He's a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He's a proud father and husband. Man, he's a DJ. The man used to be a drum major. I mean, you can go on and on and on, but this is my brother, your brother, Dr. Davis Dixon.
Hey, man, sounds like a very, very, very much so accomplished brother. You got to give him some love, right? Welcome, Dr. Dixon.
What's happening? What's happening, y'all? I appreciate y'all having me, man.
Man, hey, you got to be a bad boy, man. He said you went from Howard to Hampton. I don't know many people they let do that.
Yeah, and they don't let me forget it either. Every time I do my intro to students, when I tell them I was at Hampton before I got to Howard, they try to boo me out the room. But,
oh, man, that's dangerous territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but welcome, brother. Welcome. It's always good to have a man of alpha in the house.
Hey, it's always good to be in the house.
They keep trying to paint the walls crimson, but the only way I let it happen is with their blood.
Dr. Dixon, you pledged at Howard or you pledged at Hampton?
North Carolina Central.
Carolina Central.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what we got? A hot topic.
All right, hot topics. This is going to probably be near and dear to all of our hearts. We're going to talk about some HBCU. I wish it was something positive this time we were discussing, but unfortunately, this is a national news story. I'm an ESPN sports fan. Everyone knows. But this is probably going to touch everyone. I don't know if everyone's seen, but the Morehouse and Tuskegee, which is a good rivalry, I guess we could say, they had a little, let's say, controversial ending to a basketball game that led a coach in handcuffs. And this is now making national news. Just to have a coach to be led in handcuffs, it's just ironic. So we have a clip. If you guys, if the world hasn't seen it yet, we'd like to show that short clip. And then I'd like to hear everybody's just quick snippet about what their thoughts about in regards to this situation.
Tell me what's your hot topic? Got me hooked like I can't stop it. Every word, every drop it. Feels like love, feels like love.
All right, I want to take you to a shocking scene at today's Tuskegee Morehouse men's basketball game in Atlanta. Check it out. The video on your screen, you can see Tuskegee head coach Benji Taylor being placed in handcuffs following the Golden Tigers' loss. You can see Taylor and a law enforcement officer having a conversation. Before the officer pulls out the handcuffs, Taylor seemingly smiling in disbelief. You can see that there. And Taylor releasing the following statement: "I am at a loss for words, and I am upset about how I was violated and treated today. For my players, my family, and people of Tuskegee to witness that is heartbreaking for me. I was simply trying to get the football team out of the handshake line as they were following right behind me and the team yelling obscenities. It was a very, very dangerous situation." Now, we have reached out to Morehouse College for further information. It remains unclear which law enforcement agency handcuffed Taylor and how long the coach was detained, but Tuskegee confirms that Coach Taylor did get back on the bus towards Macon County.
Wow.
So for me, as a black man, to see
You just gonna jump right in. You're gonna let my bro go first because he.
No, I'm letting go first. I just want to set the stage because it's my hot topic. As black men, I'm
showing out tonight. Oh yeah, I'm showing out.
Got an alpha on the stage. Y'all got to hold me
I
down.
got
But
some help tonight.
that's black
ahead.
men to see another black man held in handcuffs at a black university. That was a little triggering for me. That's the way I took from it. It may not be that serious, but I love to hear from the panel, starting especially with our guest, what his thoughts are in regards to seeing that video and hearing that storyline.
Yeah, man, I think for me, I always, whenever we see videos like this, right, whether it ends up in like the worst possible outcome, it almost feels like we are kind of conditioned to figure out like what did he do, But I think, system wise, institutional wise, like we got to think more about like what is it that causes some of the folks who are in these positions of like power and authority to exercise that power in that kind of way, right? Because as far as what we can see, it's a small clip, so take that for what it is. But he wasn't physically aggressive, and I think some of that subjectivity that police folks are allowed to use with how they dole out their power. I think we need to think about that a lot more because a lot more time can be spent doing some other more productive things than putting a basketball coach in handcuffs.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, that's for sure. That sounds like some ice stuff.
It does.
That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, what do you think?
First of all, I don't know who got Revenge of the Nerds to be the commentary for that news clipping, but we have to be careful, man. I think that I think it was not appropriate. I think it could have been handled totally different. I didn't see any type of threat or aggression that would have led to that, other than probably egos hurt because they lost the game. But when we have a nation in some media outlets that are already gunning for our HBCUs, we have to be more cognizant of how we respond to certain things. So that's my take on it. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, and I just think it's a publicity nightmare.
Can somebody explain to me why it happened?
So the background story is Tuskegee had won the game. And I going to black colleges, man, the football team is always ready to fight, man. The football team is already ready to fight. It looks like that.
Even a football game.
Yeah, but the football team was always there at the basketball games. I remember we had some of the most epic fights because of the basketball game with the football team. But I think they were in the line, where they shake each other's hands, and the football team was in that line. So the coach from Tuskegee was like, hey, why are they in our line? Like, they need to get out of this line because all that leads us to issues. Now, I don't know what words were said while he was telling that, but it must have caused a level of aggression where the security guard, I'm assuming, it caused a level where they said, okay, the coach is out of line. The coach said he never said anything that was out of line, so it's kind of their word against his, but that's why he was led in handcuffs. And then he was detained but released shortly thereafter.
Like, the way in which Black excellence is being, like, torn down, they're finding every which way. If it's a homecoming thing that nothing happened on a campus, but it's around the corner, like they did Clark Atlanta. It was like it was shooting at Clark Atlanta's homecoming. No, it wasn't.
Right.
Everybody was going home. Like that was up the street by Mercedes Benz, right? So I just think, man, things just have to be a lot more. I don't thought about.
We are being yelled at.
Go ahead, brother.
Our producer says it's about that time to take a break, everyone. We may follow up. We want to hear William's take on the other side of the break, and then we're going to hear from our guest again, who's going to discuss what we're here for today, Black education and excellence in education. So this is a great transition. Please follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, everywhere you can find your podcast. Anywhere it's THEBROTHUZ. Please send us emails. We're still trying to get Dr. White married, so please send us emails. We'll see you guys on the side.
Hey, didn't we say don't we have a is it called Open Fans?
Who?
Open Fans?
No.
OnlyFans. We got an OnlyFans account.
No, we don't.
We got to get OnlyFans. Dr. White.
Fred's jokes hit hard at Bariso's wit. Antavius drops wisdom smooth and
Trina Braxton, a proud licensed real estate agent with Howell Luxury Group Realty. Since joining HLG, I've been able to realize that the real estate world is a different place, and HLG is an expert. Allow us to help you make your next home purchase one of the best decisions ever. You'll have your forever home, and HLG will have yet another satisfied client.
We laugh, we share, spinning life stories, no truth left spare. Brotherhood on air, pull up a chair, 3 minds, 1 heart, we're everywhere.
I be waiting on that breakdown, man. I be wanting that breakdown to come, but it won't come for me. It won't come for me. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the brothers, BROTHAZ. www.brothaz is the website, and that gets you into the game. You can also, of course, follow us on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, OnlyFans, Apple Podcasts, MySpace. Hey, whatever you got, we there. But we're back on this hot topic, fellas. This hot topic of the Morehouse coach or Tuskegee coach being placed in handcuffs after Tuskegee mollywop on Morehouse's basketball team. I think we'll left off with Lamar. So Dr. White, what say you, brother?
I was just saying, I mean, from a Black excellence standpoint, we got to just think about doing things differently. That officer, I believe he was a Morehouse police officer, allegedly, I would say. He has to think about, I mean, anybody who's on a college campus, those officers are officers of the state that they reside in, but they're always supposed to de-escalate and not basically arrest. Like every officer, and I used to work at Morehouse, and every officer that I used to work with, he used to be like, we don't want to arrest people. Right. The only time we arrest people is when it's life threatening. So all he had to do was, stand over there, listen to him talk, and then let him walk on. That's what it should have been done. But we got to exercise more, I don't know, man, just more restraint. Going back to what Dr. Dixon was saying, it makes no sense why people that have the power, and Weems, you told me this when I got pulled over by the police. You said, shut your damn mouth and say yes sir, no sir, because they got the power to pull you out of that car and throw you on the ground. And literally, I was getting a ticket. He said, shut your ass up and just say yes sir, no sir. And when that cop came back, I said yes sir, no sir, and he let me go. Right?
Never fight the game. Never fight on side of the road.
Never fight on side of the road.
And people always think that, I'll call for a supervisor. Hell, I thought it before I was an attorney. Right? If I call for a supervisor, they may see it my way. They're not going to see it your way. The supervisor's role, by definition, is to come and support their officer. Mm-hmm. They're not there to support you at all. So don't think you can call a supervisor and get out the ticket. Just take the ticket and go on, move on, and call the lawyer in your family or the lawyer you went to school with or whoever it is that you know that can help you out. My take on it is, listen, it was above and beyond. I gotta say, it was above and beyond. I think this guy got a little overzealous, the cop, and he just made a stupid bonehead decision. We have to learn to treat each other the way other cultures treat each other. Right? We have a tendency of always looking at the worst of who we are. And we just got to do a better job. Yeah, there it is. So now I'm going to pass it to you, Dr. White, because I think we got a robust discussion ahead.
We're going to keep it within our segment, right? So we did bring Dr. Dixon in. Fun fact, y'all may not even know this. So Kendrick won, how many Grammys yesterday? 5, 6, 5. Guess who put me on Kendrick?
Oh, this is the one?
It was you, bro. We was in Pennsylvania. You put that section 80 on. And I was like, who the hell is this? Who the hell is this?
From your neck of the woods.
My neck of the woods, right?
Oh, I'm
And,
sorry. Y'all was saying something like Kendrick Lamar.
you a big Kendrick fan. Don't even look.
I'm-
You done bought me Kendrick tickets for my birthday, Wing. Good tickets.
Really?
But we're definitely bringing in Dr. Dixon, man. He is a brilliant man. If I say so myself, this is a man that I truly respect. I mean, he helped me get out of grad school. So I appreciate you, brother. He also tried to help me get married too. So that's a whole other conversation for another day.
So we still working on that.
He's still working on it. Exactly.
Keep working. Got a whole website dedicated to it.
But here, man, we're going to talk about education reform, you all. We really, really, really want to look at and want to hear your insight to, the state of the education system and how it impacts African Americans, specifically African American males. But you're at the Mecca. You graduated from the Mecca. Now you're back at the Mecca. So I guess we'll go ahead and jump into this. What is your view? And basically, what's your viewpoint on the biggest failure of the current U.S. education system, especially for Black and Brown students?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. So I think about it in two ways, right? One is that we have some global issues with the education system in which it is failing everybody, right? So when I think about it's not just that the education system is doing certain things to Black and Brown kids, which it is, and I'll talk about that in a second, right? But two things that stick out to me are, one, we overemphasize standardized testing, and I think that overemphasis, the exaggeration of the value that we placed on standardized tests, that's detrimental to everybody. But then the way that these tests are made, the way they are implemented, what the conclusions that we take from them when kids take them, that then is exacerbated upon Black and Brown kids, right? So that's one thing. I think the second thing is that we have to really get deeper about what we mean by the purpose of schooling, the purpose of education. And when you really think about the history of education, whether it's about the methods that we use or it's about the purpose or the goal of education, the methods have changed in the past century, but the goal of education, maybe not necessarily, right? So when we think about what the purpose of education used to be was about, you need enough education so you can go work in a factory, right? Factories are closed, but we are still training people to get just enough education to enter into whatever the hot thing of the workforce is. And so even if the goal is the same, it doesn't really matter how we change formats, right? We go from smaller classrooms to more integrative kinds of student-led stuff. None of that kind of change in method helps anything if the goal is still the same, inherently in the fabric of these institutions, right? And so we've kind of been preparing students to go in a certain direction. And even though we've changed from factories into STEM and technology and stuff like that, I think we really had to interrogate what that means for who we're actually sending out into the world once they leave our care. That's one thing in terms of global education stuff. Now, there's some things that are particularly important for Black and Brown kids, school discipline is one where especially for Black children, whether we're talking about boys or girls, inherently disproportionate for Black children, right? We think about culturally responsive, culturally relevant practices and teaching and stuff like that. A lack of that for Black and Brown kids. You think about school funding, which I'm sure we will talk about in some ways today. Even teacher diversity, right? We talk about who's actually in the rooms with these kids. Those are particular things that exist that are not being thought about as it relates to enhancing outcomes for Black and Brown kids that are particularly true and specific to that population of people.
Excellent.
Wow. So it sounds like you believe that your research has shown that we prepared our kids for jobs, whereas other cultures prepared their kids for a career.
I mean, I think everybody's getting prepared for jobs right now.
Okay.
And, now what jobs we're talking about, I think is a little bit different. I think there's a lot of conversations right now, and especially like in some of the classes I teach, we talk a lot about like, well, why are Black kids, falling so far behind other people? And and like the kids, like smart, successful kids who are coming from really, really, quote unquote successful families, are having some of the same answers to that question that a lot of us out in the world are having, saying like, oh, we don't care about education, right? Or like parents aren't doing enough. And like in a vacuum, and anecdotally, some of these things might be true, but I think the way I think about a lot of it is that like, yeah, there's some personal responsibility stuff that we need to think about too, but we can't ignore systems and institutions that exist that kind of place us at odds or place us against the wall when it comes to like reaching out and reaching that level of success that other cultures are also starting to reach, even if we aren't talking about white folks and like model Asian folks that we kind of think about in relation to educational outcomes.
What are your thoughts, if I can ask a question, what are your thoughts on, because I get it, the standardized testing is based on a cultural bias. I've always said, if your standardized test, ask little John how to make collard greens or oxtails, he's going to do very well. But if you ask little Sally B over there how to make collard greens and cornbread or oxtails, she's going to fail. But the cultural bias that I see on standardized testing are things that our children are just never exposed to. All right. And then they say, well, what about the metric system? What about the measurement, the mathematics, things of that nature? Those things can be taught, and that is absolutely, I think, that's an argument to be made there. But the other things that are on those standardized tests, I think, are absolute cultural biases. For example, the LSAT. The LSAT was created because there were too many people going to law school. And they needed to be able to reduce that number. But now, what was happening at that time, baby boomers was the largest generation in the world, right at that time. You have baby boomers who came in and they just flooded us. So they had to create systems to prevent that, or to, I should say prevent it, to measure it. But now what you have is a depletion of professionals such as doctors and lawyers. And as such, now they're looking at ways to reduce the MCAT and the LSAT, or to even eliminate it in some instances, so that, these children can get into school, because they say within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have a shortage of doctors and lawyers if we don't do something to address that issue. But with the standardized tests, do you think that there's a place for them at all, or is it that there's no place for them, period?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things with that. I'm the son of a school psychologist who wholeheartedly believes in like the value of intelligence testing, but especially in the way that it then provides the services and the resources for those kids who need them, right? So I am not a person who would say like we need to throw out all standardized testing, right? And I think that's why I wanted to be clear when I said that it's not just about the way they're made, but it's also about the way they're implemented. And it's also about the way that we how we use the data once we get it, right? And so even with that, not even just the questions, but it's also about like how do we decide which questions that get used on those tests? It's like when we think about standardization, we're talking about like, well, who got to be used to set the standard, and so there's even research and data that talks about, well, in terms of picking what quote unquote good questions are for a standardized test, you got to have the right people in the room in terms of like the people who take the like those questions.
Sure.
And so if we can't even get like to that level of understanding, like who was in the room, to then understand, well, who got the question right, who got the question wrong, and be able to understand, well, what went into deciding what made that a good question. We can't even really have the conversations about, like talking about the funky chicken as to dance is like ballet is to dance, right? Like some of that and like analogy kind of stuff where we do think about IQ tests as like as a function of the experiences that people have. We got to get down to like how do we even create questions that make sense for everybody too?
You know, I mean, interject. I'm totally against standardized testing, not because I bombed the LSAT, but I've always felt like standardized testing does not, for me, say that one person is technically smarter than the other, because some people are just not great test takers, but are brilliant, right? And so I never really liked it. I always felt that it was to kind of like the LSAT to weed people out, especially us, because we were excelling in a lot of ways, right? So it wasn't just for the LSAT, it was period. And then my other thing is when it comes to education for Black and brown kids, I tie this into entertainment because I think that entertainment
That's your question. Let me stop you. Why have we started adopting this whole Black and brown kids thing?
That's what I care about. That's what I care about.
Okay.
As opposed to what?
Black kids.
Oh, I mean that's good. That's good.
I mean,
that's good.
I think I think for Dr. White, I don't want to speak for Dr. White, but in California, the Black and brown was such an integrated area so I know it's different in Atlanta, right? I don't think you had as many Hispanics or things of that nature, but I think from the West Coast, well, California in general, LA in general, it was more Black and brown. I think that's where the term, if I could think, came from.
I think so.
I
went to a Black History event in LA, and there was more Hispanics there than Black people. I was shocked. But I interrupted App. I apologize, App.
It's okay. I think one of the things that society has done is made it cool to be dumb. Right? They made it cool to be dumb. They've done it with music. They do it in television. And when you look at the developmental stages of these kids and these children, that's what they're watching. That's what they're emulating. So the kid who's may well be pretty smart doesn't want to show that he's smart because it's not cool to be smart when it comes to education with us. And then you have educators that see it and try to pull it out of them, and you get that friction. So my question is, how much responsibility should fall on schools versus families and communities when it comes to our children in their educational development and success?
Yeah, so the answer that I have is one that I imagine we nobody's gonna like. Really. I mean, well, some people might, but I think it's both and, right? It's like I think I live in a world, and I think especially as a researcher, you learn a lot more that like there's a lot more gray than there is black and white in literally everything that we experience. And I think for this question that is true. And especially in a world where we exist very much in this question about like personal responsibility versus institutions and systems of support and things like that. This question kind of strikes home to that. What I would say is that obviously the first teacher of a child is the family, right? It's the parents, it's the grandparents, it's whatever guardians, siblings, and things like that are around a kid in those first years of life. So that system of support, that investment in success is going to start there, right? And I think that it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, right? Yeah, we got some stuff that we got to make sure that we are up on, and I think that first piece around like families having to honor the responsibility that they have to take the steps that are necessary to move kids down a path moving towards success, like super important, right? I would never doubt that. But what I will also say is that like we have compulsory education for a reason, right? Like each state has a law that says that somewhere between the age of like 4 and 6 or like 4 and 7, all the way up to like 16 to 18, you got to be in school, right? And if you don't, people go to jail. And so then with that, like while families have a responsibility for like raising and building strong like moral and personal character in kids and stuff like that, we also got to recognize the fact that for some families at 6 weeks, a child is in some kind of system of care at that point. Like they are out of the home. I even think about like for my daughter now, like she comes to school with me. She goes to the Howard Early Learning Program, but I'm with my daughter essentially for 2 hours at the beginning of the day, maybe a couple hours at the end of the day. She's at school for 8. And so just like the math of that breaks down to a different level or a different weight of responsibility that schools have. And so even with that, like unless we're going to start changing up the way that society and capitalism kind of works, where we have to go and work, some of us working multiple jobs in order to make ends meet, then we got to make sure we have that balance of both family responsibility and school responsibility to actually hold the weight of what makes a student or makes a child successful at this. And we also got to be honest that like most of us don't want our parents teaching their kids like math and reading and like history and stuff, right? Like until, cause like we got to start it somewhere where like the parents can be qualified to do better about teaching stuff. But like right now, we ain't there yet, So we got to build that to where, like, yes, that responsibility does kind of come from that personal place, but like teachers are trained, supposed to be trained for that.
But
yeah,
could they
right.
But isn't it important for the family to set the foundation and the expectations, right? Sometimes you can't get a parent to sign a consent form. But I think setting that foundation, even if they're not as educated.
That's right.
Right? But at least setting the expectation of what they expect of them going and then sticking to that.
But that also requires the parents, I think, to go to the school.
Yeah.
Be more
involved.
But
how do we get so I think there's an assumption, right, that the people who are not involved don't want to be involved.
That's true.
Right?
I don't say that statement with the assumption, but I say that statement with you make time for the things that are important to you. Because we get it, parents work, right? My mom worked. I'm the product of a single mother raised in the projects of Atlanta. Right, so my mom had to work 2 jobs to take care of 3 kids, and she did it by herself. I'm a lawyer. My sister's a high school principal, and my younger sister's an accountant. So she was able to do it. She made time for the things that were important to her, i.e., her children. So I think we make time for things that are important to us.
So I wanted to make a point, and this is where there's some type of disconnect, right? Going back to app. If we're training our kids at home, whatever we're training them, right? But it's steeped in their culture, right? And culture is not black. It's just what culture is, right? Culture is hard to define. But then you go into that classroom and you got to give up who you are, what you've learned, your identity, your belonging, if you will. And you're going to this environment that's sterile, where you don't see the books, don't have anything about Lamar, Aparicio, Antavius. It
ain't gonna have anything about Antavius.
You don't see nothing like that in the school books, and this is from elementary school on up. You lose yourself. So then some people disengage, but
what I recognize and what I'm hearing from all 3 of you guys, and I've been listening very intently, is that whenever there's a challenge or a problem, Williams has taught me this, you usually go follow the money, right? And I think you hit on the word capitalism, right? So capitalism dictates of how we're being educated, right? It shows us, you go to school, even your parents kind of say, if you want a good job, you got to go to school, you got to get this education because of getting money. And it changes that learning aspect of, I want to learn, I need to be empowered, the Marcus Garvey aspect of the educational piece, and to the point of, I'm just going to school, I got to do A, B, C, D, and E just so I can make $50,000 so I can take care of my kid, which ain't enough, but at least I can put some food on the table and hope they can get to school and hopefully they can do better. Can you speak to that along with Dr. White? I think it's a collaborative question of how capitalism plays a role in our educational reformation system, and how we're either learning to learn, as I believe, holistically, or we're just learning to try to make a check. And what's the
Well,
important
so,
difference?
listen, like, and I want to see if I understand. Are you saying is the educational system creating thinkers as opposed to doers? You know,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it sounds like that's where you're going with that, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm starting to do a lot more like research about capitalism. I think some of that has been driven just by how integrated these conversations about capitalism versus socialism versus communism and like what that then means for society. But I think to the question about like who are we producing, right? Whether it's about workers or thinkers, I think that we are clearly not invested in like large scale building people who are going to be thinkers, right?
The entire system, dog.
Yeah, I think in the system, I think the system is not built in a way that is moving us towards being thinkers. Now, what I will say is that like when you look at like media and news about like the ways in which we do education or we do schooling, you know, people are starting to highlight that we are doing more critical thinking in schools. I don't know if that is built into the fabric of the system or if that's kind of like built some into like what teachers are kind of doing. I don't think that is widely accepted in terms of standards across states, right? And I think what you then have with that is that we are not building people who are going to challenge the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And so then with that, we are basically sending people to school to kind of like have information poured into their heads, but they're not critically interrogating that information, right? And so then they leave school, they don't have critical thinking skills to then combat with all the nonsense. I know we can't cuss on this production, right? But all the nonsense that exists out in the world and be able to actually like question that stuff. And now more than ever, we have doctored videos, we have fake news, we have really, really slanted news media. And you know, and like it takes like both sides of the thing, right? But you have to be able to be a critical thinking person, like to navigate through that. And so what I think it ends up leaving us with is people who want to challenge the status quo, right? Like even all the conversation that we have about, you know, people pulling their kids out of schools and pulling their kids out of like mainstay institutions really comes from people trying to challenge the status quo. But we are not producing people who are equipped to challenge the status quo. And so then what they do is go and listen to podcasts. And they read Instagram captions and they watch 40-second videos on social media and think that is learning. But they don't know how to then go and read something and then attach that to what they saw on TV. And so that's really not to mention then like we are talking a lot about like the fabric of schooling in terms of like, yeah, we want to build people who can like be entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But like, yeah, you are supposed to then go be like a creator, but then you don't have the accompanying like thoughtfulness, like in touch with the worldness, like problem solving skills to then be successful at creating something, you know. So you still short at the end of the day.
So many gems. Wow. It's really crazy because you think about the social political just world that we're living in right now, right? And critical thinkers is definitely not what this administration wants to. Period, point blank, the end. And if we had institutions, and majority of those institutions, when we talk about, you know, the word woke, but just the majority of our HBCUs, and we're going to talk about that on the backside of our break, is what majority of our institutions, our HBCUs, are trying to do. They're trying to create critical thinkers. One of the things that our mentor, intellectual father, Dr. A. Wade Boykin, God bless the dead, he always used to say is that we need to create knowledge. We don't need to just be consumers of knowledge. We need to create it as well, right? And that means just going out, collecting the data, and making informed practices basically the best practice. So, yeah, man.
So before we go, I think we have a little time before we go to
Yeah,
break.
yeah, yeah. We got a couple of
I had a question about just the administration, because I hear you all putting the administration in, it's weaved in, right? But do you think that what do you think, Doc, that the culture, if you will, thinks the role of the Department of Education is?
I believe that the like the regular layperson probably believes that the Department of Education is the governing body that sets what the curriculum and like learning standards are for all kids across the country. They don't do that. they kind of never have done that. I think that's even particular to, one of the things that you always hear right now is that you have people on social media who talk about, well, yeah, it's because of No Child Left Behind that all these kids are getting passed for without actually meeting the right grade, and that's not what the Department of Education does. That's not what that law did. We can talk about what it does do in terms of like what its actual function is and how that is changing today, kind of based on new administration. But yeah, it's all about how do you kind of enforce the standards of the state? How do you make sure that money is going into the right places? And how do you then make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do for the money they're supposed to get in these different pockets of money that the federal government has? That's a short story.
Right. Short of the long. So I guess on the other side of this break, we're going to go into the importance of HBCUs. But remember to like and subscribe to the Brothers Podcast. We're everywhere you are. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music. Let's go.
From LA to ATL, we're setting the scene for every dreamer with a spotlight dream. Contracts and clauses, we got it on lock. With a robust roster, with the cream of the crop. Brands and icons, we help them rise. Together we shine, reaching new heights. Entertainment law, we've got the flair. Weaves, the name that they know. In the world, all the stars, we make the glow. From LA to ATL, we're setting the scene. For every dreamer with the spotlight dream.
Welcome back to the Brother Show. We are back again. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Brother Show on all social media platforms. It is TheBrothaZ. That is on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. You name it, we probably there. We're in a deep discussion right now, very intellectual discussion, but it's very interesting. I'm going to preface this and say we must have Dr. Dixon back for a part 2.
Absolutely.
With that said, Dr. Lamar, I'm going to turn it over to you so we can continue this discussion.
All right, man. So we got Dr. Dixon from Howard University, assistant professor of developmental psychology in the house today. And we're going to jump into this HBCU questions, man. Talk to us about, do you think HBCUs are still relevant, are still important to actually educate the people in the United States?
Oh, for sure. Like, no doubt. 100%, hands down. I mean, of course, like I wouldn't have a job if I didn't believe that, right? But I think like they still matter because like the mission of HBCUs is still the same from 160 years ago, right? HBCUs are the only place where mostly Black people can come together and develop like character and purpose and like a sense of self that's kind of connected to a larger community. I think there are also places that exist to create a sense of belonging, a sense of mattering, a sense of trust and respect inside of that community, inside of that village that you're not going to get from anywhere else. And I think what's probably most important about that is that like HBCUs exist in the same way, whether you are like the all-star valedictorian student or if you are the one that barely made it out of high school.
That's
right.
Right.
And that's the case because HBCUs serve like everybody, right? and they literally can be whatever you need them to be once you get there. And I think, and that is something that does not exist in other places. Even for myself, right? Like, in high school, like I was in the IB program, like International Baccalaureate and stuff like that. But by all my family standards, I did not do well in high school, right? Like very much like solid C, B minus student. So much so that my mom was not going to let me go to Central because she did not trust that I would not come home after the first semester because like I wouldn't do my work, right? But Central was there for me to like create this like the space and the environment for me to thrive and for me to actually like capitalize on all the stuff that I already had inside of me. And so yeah, like you don't have that in other places, right? And I think you can see that even from like when 2020 happened and we saw all this like this rush of Black folks applying to HBCUs more so than ever before. It's because Black kids and Black families were like clamoring for something that they were not getting, and they needed something like to anchor that sense of self. And I think you find that at a HBCU.
It's absolutely correct. You said so many different things, man. And it kind of moves you a little different when you hear the things that you're saying. The fact that you said for 160 years, HBCUs have been the answer to the Black community, if you will, right? The answer to trying to push us forward. Just with the people on this call, App is from Memphis, myself from Compton, Fred is from Inglewood, Williams is from the Southwest, SWATs, if you will, Southwest Atlanta, and we all went to these HBCUs. The fact of the matter is, you said something that I would never have known. Dr. Dixon, what did you graduate? What was your GPA when you finished Central?
Finished Central, it was like a 3.89.
3.89.
I think. Yeah.
Think about that. High school, moms didn't even think that he was going to even do anything. This man almost got a 4.0 GPA. That means he got 1B.
Right.
1B. And I mean, it was the same way when he got to his doctorate studies. I think he got 1B. And it was all A's.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I was like, hey, bro, I need your help, bro, collecting this data.
Out, brother.
But all right, Doc, let's talk a little bit about culture when we talk about just the education system. So are we preparing Black students to thrive or just survive in America?
Yeah, I mean, there's a question as to if we are doing either one of those things, right? Even if the answer is like, if my answer was we're doing it to survive, I think there's somebody who could say like, I don't think we're doing that. But I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about like earlier in terms of like the purpose or the goal of schooling, right? I think for us to move to a place to where we are actually building people or like pushing people towards thriving, I think we're going to have to build a generation of kids and emerging adults who are going to think critically, right? Like I said before. I think, especially as a person, I think like if I wouldn't have done psychology, I would have done history. I think we have to build people who have an acknowledgement of history and the role that it plays in like the context of today. And so like the ills of the past still like rear their head in the same way today, right? Like there's a book that's called like How to Win the Civil War. And the premise of it basically says the Civil War never ended. And all the same strategies that people use that the South and the Confederacy use to try and win the war are still showing up in different generations today in the same playbook. And so if you don't know that, then what we're hearing today right now with like all the ICE stuff is like we've never seen America operate in this way. It was like, nah, we have, right? Like, yeah, there are some things that are unique to this particular situation, but the playbook of it is very much the same. Yeah. And so I think, especially in terms of education, while we have built education in a way that we are chasing like math and science and like technological prowess and stuff like that, but we are not coupling that with a connection to like a larger purpose, a sense of community, a sense of human decency, and like a strong moral character. To me, it feels like what we're really just doing is like creating a generation of supervillains, right? Like we're really just creating a whole bunch of people who are striving to be Elon Musk, right? Like, and it's clear that that is not what's going to get us to a place that's going to sustain like society and sustain this country as it needs to be. And I think especially for Black people, where at every turn, especially with this new administration, like we are faced with people trying to ban books and ban education and ban our opportunities. We like ever more importantly have to focus on doing this stuff ourselves. And so you can't do that yourself if you don't read, if you don't acknowledge history, and you don't understand how all that stuff is connected.
That's real, Doc. So at this point, we're gonna do some rapid fire for everybody on the panel. So everybody wants you guys to think about, is the education system preparing our students to thrive or survive? I'm gonna take it to App.
Oh, he's gonna start with me. You know, that's why I said we gotta have a part 2, because y'all know my views. I think that kind of like Dr. Dixon, I think it's a mix of both, right? I think it is preparing. You have to prepare it differently for a different generation with education. It has to change with the generational and the times that we're in. So I question with that, when you ask that question, I think about what I want to ask Dr. Dixon in the next show. Is college still relevant in where this generation is going, and what, you know, as far as the workforce and the type of jobs that would be available for them? And I say that real quickly, I won't be long-winded, is because we were told that get the education and you get a nice job, right? And we drank that Kool-Aid, and many of us came out with debt, not unless you're in a specialized industry. For this generation, they can get certifications and don't have to go to a 4-year university. So
That's right.
is that being, you know, saying, are we being misled in that way too? So I want to save my thoughts for a second episode of this, because I think it's so much deeper we can go into with education in our community.
All right, Fred.
Wow. Yeah, I think we have to define what we want to call education, right? I think education, as to Dr. Dixon point, is it really to learn the math, the technology, this AI that's coming up, or is it a holistic approach, as in building moral character, right? Learning your history, learning philosophy, learning the entire umbrella, as opposed to just saying, well, be like the next Elon Musk. Of course, and which goes to my point earlier, we teach our kids, well, you got to make money. We kind of focus on, well, you got to do this to make money. We want you to do this to make money. And then we're not learning the whole point. And to your point, the supervillain point, right? Yeah, we're creating this supervillain, but then what happens when we need somebody that needs caring or hugging, or the social workers or the therapists or the philosophers? Where do those go? Because they don't make the amount of money, or that's the mathematician or the accountant or the technology. It seems like we're fighting a losing battle. So to F's point, I can't wait till part 2, because I would love to have a follow-up on how we see that as, and how we define education, how we as a whole, as a group, as a people, define the term education.
That's interesting. I think that's what Fred said was very apropos. How are we defining education? Everything has been turned on its ear. You know, what happens, you used to go to school to get you a good job at AT&T, and you kept it for 30 years. You retired and you lived off your pension. That doesn't happen anymore. So what is it now that our children are striving for? I find that they unfortunately are striving to become the next Michael Jordan, but there aren't many of those. And even with the next Michael Jordan, they may be able to play basketball, but can they sustain that? Or can that sustain them into a lifestyle that they are visualizing with that role? I don't think so. So, you know, we as a culture, I think, have to make other careers as sexy as we made sports. And we have failed on that. And that's my take on it.
So I'll just do this, man. For Black students, reform is not an option. It's a matter of justice, legacy, and survival. I mean, we owe it to our students. We owe it to ourselves to continue to celebrate HBCUs, to continue to celebrate Black excellence, and continue to develop critical thinkers. Without critical thinking, we're just really consuming the falsehoods that are coming through our social media platforms. So I think it's on us to hold ourselves accountable as a community, to make sure that we're educating ourselves, that we're looking at the whole education system as a whole and trying to infiltrate it as much as we can. That's what Dr. Dixon is doing right now at Howard University. That's what I'm doing at my community college in South Carolina. We're trying to get into the system and create some type of systematic change. And the problem with the system is it's racist, and we know that. So kind of deep to end out on, but hey, I keep hearing it. Maybe we're going to have to do a part 2. So Dr. Dixon, I want to thank you for coming in, giving your insights after your long day of work and your long day of fatherhood. I really appreciate you, brother. So,
Dr. Dixon, are you available to come back if we get,
for sure, man. For sure. Anytime y'all want to have me when you fit me into the busy schedule. I know you said you got, I think I watched the last episode. You said you got Q from 112 coming at some point. Let me slide in some other time after that.
All right, you can come in with him. Q's an intelligent brother. I mean, he can definitely add to this conversation. Especially Q has a mentoring program. Not mentoring. No. It's a brotherhood program, actually, not a mentoring program. Brothers United, and Brothers United ATL, because there are different chapters in other cities that he has allowed people to license. And what it is just what we're doing, supporting and educating, entertaining, and loving on each other, pause, as brothers, right? Because we don't do that, enough in a healthy environment. But those brothers get together, man, and they just sit there and they talk about today's ills.
It's been another great episode of The Brothers Show. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Brothers on all social media platforms. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's not called Twitter. X. It's called X, right? But all your social media platforms, TheBrothaz. We don't ask for much. All you got to do is hit that button to the like, subscribe, and follow so you can get the drop whenever we drop. Peace.
Aparicio and Italians roll like tides. College days, Clark, Atlanta, where it all collides. Fred stepped in, the trio came alive. 3 voices, 1 mic, now the stories thrive. Late nights, deep talks, the bonds grew tight. From dorm room dreams to the podcast.